That land that you see in Acholi, which is very big, Acholi blood was poured in it to be what it is. And in the constitution, I hear them talk.
In one of the hottest podcasts today, we see Professor Latigo battling out the issue of the Balalo and the Acholi land. He battles out Andrew Mwenda and the rest who are in this podcast. Let me leave you with the full video on what exactly happened. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed, because you're getting the latest updates on what is happening. We remain at Skills Media, UG.
Acholi blood was poured in it to be what it is. And in the constitution, I hear them quoting about law. The constitution talks about Acholi. Because Acholi land is not just land, it is also our identity. When you trample on it because you have money and you insult some of us, we will not keep quiet. It is wrong.
How do we resolve it, Professor?
Those who are selling land to the Balalo, they are just merely being selfish. Wait.
Okay.
And they don't see the larger picture. Let me ask you, because of the context of the Balalo, why were they not buying land in the 60s in Acholi? Why? In the 70s, why? Why were they not there? In the 80s, why were they not there? In the 90s, why were they not there? That they buy land now.
Population wasn't growing.
Is it about population? So ours didn't grow. You see, this thing is more fundamental than about
ours. When you say ours, what do you mean? Who
we actually. You
so it's a tribal issue.
No, I'm an Acholi. You cannot take that away from me.
So,
so why shouldn't I talk?
You are saying that the Acholis who are selling, you, Latigo, should have authority to stop them from selling.
No.
Hey.
Didn't I say I bought land?
Okay, so why don't you want Balalos to buy?
Oh, why do what? Let me tell you today.
We want to
the entry of the Balalo in Acholi, the way they are entering, is insulting to many of us. Because you enter there because somebody can no longer cultivate his land. He's talking about neighboring Andrew Adimola. In the 60s, Adimola had a groundnut combined harvester on his farm. That neighbors him. Where's the farm?
So the way they
wait, let me talk. Let me talk. No, let me talk. If you went to Noya, next to the home of Alija Latim, Wilson Lutara had the best red pole herd in East Africa on his farm. In my own place, we had a dairy farmer with Frisian animals. All those went with the war. When we see cattle, it reminds us of the animals that we lost, of the prosperity that we lost, of the pain that we went through. That matter has not been resolved.
So the solution is to block people from buying the land, or ask the government to stop you?
Please, let us first have, I told you the process when the president went, when the daughter had a mission, Pentecostal mission in Hulu.
You have really disappointed me.
Oh yes, oh yes.
You have really disappointed me.
Don't worry.
For a great man like you.
No. Let me finish. Let me finish. Let me tell you. If, for example, today something happens to President Museveni, those people will be slaughtered. I'm telling you.
What do you say to them?
No.
Okay. How?
So until we have a foundation of acceptance of one another, of honesty, and when we see you with money, we don't become your slave of money. Until we have that, a few selfish guys will defend them and claim they sold their land, and I can guarantee you, I know the prominent families in that area who own land.
Thank you, Professor.
If you go to Acholi, you will find in some places Madupe, the Madis were there. If you go, you'll find even the father of the bishop of Arua, Anglican bishop of those days, was settled in Gulu. And every community you can talk of are there. But they are there by a simple process, a human process of assimilation, which is the same process that now you'll see people who many people assumed were Baganda beginning to talk about who they are in Buganda. Many people came to work. They became friends and relatives with the local Baganda, adapted their culture, adapted their names, acquired assets, and they became, by identity, virtually the Baganda. If the Balalo were going to Acholi and raising their animals with the rest of the Acholis and relating to them, that process of assimilation, I can tell you, nobody would point a finger. But what is happening is a very unfortunate thing, because you have a people in northern Uganda, in Acholi, who went through the war. After the war, actually the land crisis started long before the Balalo came. I had a professor from Oxford who came and met me. I was in my farm, and the professor, when I told him, I said, you know, people are not grabbing Acholi lands. The problem now is that young people will see no alternative in life. Will pick their own, even their own parents' land,
Professor Latigo,
and sell it. To do what? To buy a border, to drink, maybe impress a woman. Now the consequence of that is that the society on which they should grow is crumbling. And the guy said, oh, here goes my research. Because his information was that somebody was grabbing Acholi land. We are not talking about grabbing land, because the land in Acholi is huge. It's bigger than Rwanda. But we are talking about a process where if you are interested in doing farming in Acholi, either your farming must relate to how they live, or you will find natural resistance, or you come and grow your activity in such a way that as you grow your activity, you even learn, you have friends, you have a few words that you can exchange. Now that kind of process, there would be no crisis, and that process you cannot contest it, because you will have no basis, whether morally, culturally, or legally, to contest it. But just think of it, that Acholi that used to have lots of cattle, that lost their cattle in war, and all of a sudden some guys come, and because the other guys are so poor, all these things about LCs, it doesn't change the fact that you are dealing with a community that is in poverty. There ought to have been concrete government program. All these NUSAF were programs that in the end never had roots in Acholi. Those who, you remember this guy in Prime Minister's office, this thing is still even in jail. People just ate the money. If they had involved us, I remember the very early program when the late Agat Didi was minister for Northern Uganda. You know, because he saw that I understood it very well. We would actually go to World Bank meeting. He would leave his PS and go with me, and I was a member of parliament. So that is the problem. Secondly, if you are faced with this kind of challenges, and then you see what is happening. Mwenda will come and talk very strongly. My brother there will come and say we are association of land sellers and we say this, and then you have a meeting, and that meeting is if you have a meeting in Kigomba and everybody else who is there looks like from one community, is that not tribal? How would we look at your meeting? Has any of those people appealed to senior citizens of our communities like us and said, look, this is a problem we are facing. How can we deal with it? But the issue is that after so many years of war that destroyed the progress, by the way, let nobody fool you. Acholi's led this country on many grounds. Gureme one time wrote and after Onyango Bo and talked about in the Kachoke Madit in London how many actually PhD people appeared there. People don't know that some of the earliest professors in Makerere, J.J. Oloya, first African Dean, Semei Nyanzi, and Kibaki, they were the first African lecturers. And if actually we are not discriminatory, Semei Nyanzi is Semei Nyanzi, but he comes from Agago with me and him. He came from Agago, but he's Semei Nyanzi. So let the idea that Acholi is a tribalistic be thrown away. We are not. Nyamwe, is it Nyamwe Andao, Commissioner for Agriculture? He married from Kalongo when we were small kids, from Ankole. Rugunda's son married in Atiak. We have our own children who are married in Buganda, from Buganda, from all over. We are not, Acholis are not tribalistic. And this is not about tribalism. This is about recognizing that we have gone over the years of the NRM government, particularly coming into power. We had gone through trauma and difficulties. If you want to, if the government of Uganda, and this is where I can agree with Mwenda in blaming the president, that if we had a systematic agricultural development policy, and we'll say Acholi has potential for livestock. And by the way, even when we were students, Professor Kiua taught us animal production. You do all the geographical parameters, the best place to do livestock, beef livestock in Uganda is Acholi. There's no other place in Uganda, none. So yes, the potential is there. And those guys who have gone and bought land see the potential. But how they have gone there is very insensitive and very inconsiderate. When it is like that, it becomes a matter of emotion rather than logic. And some of us have not talked much. When that matter the last time came, I was interviewed and I said, I want to tell Salim Saleh and his brother that we Acholis have a saying that Kopti Yubo, Kopti Yadunu, meaning there are fundamental issues in the lung and in the heart. If those fundamental issues are not dealt with and brought out, no matter how good the cattle keeping of the Balalo in Acholi may be, it will be rejected by our people. President Museveni had started a process which we urge that it should continue so that we resolve the issue of the war and the consequences of the war and create a situation of matoput.
Professor, what are these fundamental issues in the lungs and the heart, as you say? Because you mentioned assimilation, but what are these fundamental issues?
That we are how we are now because of the war. That when they were fighting in Luero, all the things that happened there, they would say about Acholi. And yet, we had Acholi commanders, Kennedy Kilama, Eric Odua. Ask if anybody has a complaint against them. You don't find. And they were the commanders in Luero. My own cousin brother died in Luero. So when they even take our people to look at the skulls, how do you know that the skull you are seeing is not the skull of my brother who died there?
Okay.
So, fundamentally, let us rethink this program. Yes, the president is president of Uganda because of politics. It's not by inheritance. So if the politics demands that he should hear the objection of the Acholis in the manner by which, because these guys who are going there, if you look in the 1960s, how many of them had parents who owned livestock like they have now, or who owned vehicle like my dad had a vehicle and he had a shop, but I've never moved and taken over land anywhere because of money.
Okay.
The land in Acholi, some parts are communal, like the hunting ground, the grazing ground, like swamp. In Acholi, nobody owns swamp traditionally. If the swamp passes near your village, the boys, the youths around that village, they can go and farm plants, sugarcane communally. And then the grazing land was also communal, then the hunting ground was also communal. However, the other customary land belong to individuals, clan and family. You will find if you are the descendant of, like my father is James, the family of James, they have their parcel of land which they dig. Another person, maybe you are an Acholi from Kochi, you will not come and claim rights in our land because you are an Acholi and on the ground that it is customary. That doesn't work like that. If you are a Payera and you cannot go to Lamoge and say this is a customary land and I'm going to farm there, we inherit along a certain descent, a certain offspring lineage. So now, some individuals are owning that kind of land where your grandfather left for you. This kind of land, you can agree as a family and you write a family resolutions and you sell, which is acceptable in law.
Sell or lease?
Actually, even selling and leasing both, it is possible. Unless someone is going to say family resolution is not one way of allowing family land to be sold. And then also, some of this land where the Balalos are occupying, there are Balalos who have bought land which were already having titles. There were families that have acquired titles in the 60s. So these families have also sold land to the Balalo. It's like they have sold the title and the Balalos are occupying. So now, as landowners, we are saying, verification will help to know which Balalo has defied the presidential directive, which Balalo has complied, and then even if a Molalo is says, will go knowing that I have really not met my standard. So the verification report will be like a report card where any exiting Balalo would know that I am leaving Acholi land because of this.
How were you able to live amicably with them on your land that you had leased to them?
That is very, you see, when you have a tenant in your rental apartments, by the time someone is coming, you make a rental agreement and you list the condition. In my home, when you are living, you must pay in my house. In my home here, I don't want littering of the compound. In my home here, I don't want quarreling. In my home, I don't want fighting. So like for us, part of the land that we are leasing, we are doing community conservancy in that part of parcel of land. So what we have agreed with our tenant is there is no cutting of trees. That is one condition. Two, we don't want one tenant to bring another person whom we are not in agreement to graze in that land. Because one of the issues which is causing this problem, the indiscipline one, which the president talked elaborately about in the presidential directive order, is that one person acquire land, then again sub-rent to another person. So the one who comes doesn't even have any connection with the real owner of the land. So those are the one who are doing even things which are really not good.
Okay.
And for us as the landowners and livestock farmers, we have agreed that such individuals should be the first priority to be evicted.
The bottom line is this. This is a tribal campaign started by elites trying to whip up ethnic sentiments in order to gain cheap popularity. Otherwise, the people who have leased land, and that's why I like my great grandson